you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me here, and I hope I can share with you some of my experience in technology transfer. I will look really from the practitioner side, and this is what I am. I'm a practitioner. I'm a scientist that went into the innovation and fell in love with innovation when I was in Silicon Valley. I brought back what I could when I went back to Switzerland. And then we worked for the last 10 years with me and many other colleagues from technology transfer to bring Switzerland to a very good level of technology transfer. So I hope I can share with you some of good things we have been doing in Switzerland. But when I'm saying Switzerland, it's because in this title there's the term solutions. And I think solutions are located where they are working, maybe in Switzerland. I'm not sure you can adapt them in your setting. I think in Europe we have to adapt solutions where you are. And so I will bring my solution, but it's not the solution. So I hope this is clear. Challenges. Of course, we are here because there are challenges in relationship between university and industry. Otherwise, I don't think we would need to take our bag and come to many places in the world and meet other people if there were not challenges. We are here to discuss how to be better, how to be more efficient, and I think it's important to recognize that. The second thing I will speak is how to address these challenges, so I will come back to the example of Switzerland, and I will also give you some hint about where we are working right now, where are the challenges that are waiting for us or are here and we have to address them, we don't have solution yet. So I'm going to go very fast because you all know that we move from different type of economy. We move from a factor-driven, from a financial-driven, and now we are on an innovation-driven economy. And I think we are in a stage where people are looking for innovation ideas. It's not anymore where you have the stuff that is important. It's where you can find the right ideas and the smart people. And when you say that, at the same time, the complexity of research is getting higher and higher and higher. So people are getting more specialized. They are professional, scientists in one particular field. But at the same time, if you want to be creative, you have to go out from that very narrow field. And the collaboration, then it's very important. So collaboration between people from different fields is key to generate smart ideas. And so basically, you have and we have to work together between scientists, together between the university and academia, and industry. Now, if you look at what happened when you work together, what you see is that people working together are much more efficient in bringing out interesting ideas, articles. And there has been a study that was published a few years ago that looked at how many papers came out, how many patents came out, and they looked at how well they were received, depending on how much collaboration has been going on between the people to do that. And what you see is that people that collaborate have a higher rate of success in terms of references, have a higher rate of quality of patents. So basically, collaboration is indeed very efficient in bringing new ideas on the table. Now, collaboration is one thing. You have to also have people from diverse views to collaborate. Why is that? Because if you are in a group and everybody has the same view, there is no challenge. You just come with your idea and nobody is challenging that to you. So you just come out of the room, there is nothing new. But if you have people with diverse ideas coming from diverse backgrounds, they will challenge your assumptions. And you're going to have to rewind your assumptions and rethink your assumptions. And that's, I think, one of the key elements of making new innovation is having people challenging you on your belief and on your assumptions. So again, mixing people, yes, but mixing people with diverse backgrounds. Very important. How to do that? If you look at some of the campuses in the world, and that's a few examples of the US, people are building a research center where they assemble researchers from different disciplines. And the goal is to make sure that these people will cross each other, will go in the cafeteria together, will talk about their project, and hopefully there will be something coming out from that. You know, so that Apple, Steve Jobs was very instrumental in making sure that the people in his big centralized headquarters in Cupertino were actually mingling together. And I think it's also very important physically to have the people interact. And that's linked to this idea of diversity, people from different fields working together. Of course, sometimes in universities, you don't have the money to actually build this kind of building. So you have to find other ways to get the mix in, and I will come back to that with the example of University of Geneva. So all this said, I think universities and industry wants to work together. I think industry has been very clear in their surveys that universities are key for them to get new ideas, fresh ideas. So there is a demand also on the industry side to get the scientist information, scientist ideas, and to be able to get fresh ideas from people that are not always in the production or in the research facility of the company. So of course, when you say now, working with industry and university together, that was the image in the past, not so far away. I have to say, when I left my university as a scientist, it was really what people saw. It was two worlds, looking at each other, but no many links, at least in Switzerland. So I'm not speaking about something that was 50 years ago. I'm speaking something about 20 years ago. And I think the effort that have been going on, at least in Switzerland, were really to break this kind of vision of the relationship between university and industry. And I hope I can convince you that this is a picture of the past. And now we have much more type of collaboration. So there is the typical licensing collaboration where you actually have an idea, make a patent filing, you find a company that is interesting, and then you make a license, so you assign the patents. You also work together between the university and industry, co-development, co-research, agree on a research project. There are consortia, people getting together in bigger group and trying to define work plan. That's the European kind of approach to research. And of course, there are other type of partnership. I don't have a word for that, but it's also an interesting way of partnership. Now, example. I said I'm coming from the practice, so I will show you how we practice technology transfer in Switzerland. And we are proud to say that Switzerland is a top innovative country. Now, I'm sure you're going to say, well, Switzerland, come on. Full of cows, mountains. You guys, you're going to convince me that, it's going to be, you are top innovative. I mean, I guess we have as many cows in Switzerland as here. I know there are a lot of cows here, seemingly, in the Netherlands. So how come can we see this picture and think about Switzerland, about the innovative? I don't know if you guys went to Zurich airport. When you get to the airport, you get a small train that gets you to the main hub. And the train has, songs of, cow and, yodel and, nothing about technology, nothing about innovation. So it's really, behind this picture, this is very good for tourists. There are also some activity in terms of innovation. And that's why you can see here, there are rankings. I won't spend a lot of time on rankings because rankings you can argue for, months and months if they are relevant or not. I will just show you that most of the innovation ranking are putting Switzerland in a very high level. These are 3 examples. Now, if you look deeper into more relationship between knowledge transfer and collaboration, then we also get very good rating. And I think it's very important to see that not only in innovation in general, but also in the relationship between industry and university, we are very high. The question is why? And how did we get there? So if you see here, I guess you know this Swiss gentleman. On the right side, you could think this is his ATP, world ranking, but it's not. It's actually the ranking of technology transfer ranking in terms of the year. So more than to say we are the first, and I don't think we are the first, it's interesting to see we actually came from 10, 15, to the 1. And how did we achieve that? So basically, this is not the other federa is actually the technology transfer ranking Switzerland. It's a bit, too much. I guess you're going to say, putting my head there and being the federa of technology transfer. And I think I would agree with that. It's a bit too much. But I just want to tell you that what is interesting for us is to understand why we moved from number 10 to number 1 and 2. And I'm a scientist, so this kind of ranking, which are based on a lot of subjective interviews, I'm not very comfortable with that. So now I'm going to just show you 2 or 3 other rankings that I think much more show how Switzerland is doing in terms of technology transfer. This is the number of co-publication. So publication when you have somebody from industry and somebody from university. And that's much more, you can sense, okay, there we have something objective to show. And you can see that Switzerland is having a lot of publication that groups people from industry and university. And that's, I think, a tangible view about how strong the collaboration is going on. You can also look at the benchmarking in terms of technology transfer between Switzerland, between Europe and the US. This is a benchmarking that was done in 2006. So how much invention disclosure, how many startups, spin-off, patent application do you do per million of R&D budget? And this was interesting to see that we were not, at that time people really thought, okay, the US is way ahead. I mean, we are just trying to reach up their level. But actually it's not the case. And in Europe and in Switzerland, we are pretty well placed on that. So I think these two very kind of concrete survey metrics benchmarking is for me much more convincing as the first one. And I hope I can convince you that beyond the cows and the nice mountains, we also have a very good technology transfer. Now, of course, you're going to ask, okay, concretely, what do you do to get a good technology transfer activity? And I think first thing is that we have been investing in research for many years. So I think the success is based on the quality of science first. You cannot just bring people and ask them to be successful if there is not a strong research base. And that's an investment that has been done for tens and tens of years, and we have very lucky to be having such a good quality of research. So that's the first thing, I think. The second thing is, I said, how can we make better ideas by having people getting together? And this is what we do in the University of Geneva. We have different ways of bringing people from industry and university together. We don't have a building we can build and have people move there, but what we are doing is creating interactive events which bring together these people and in a way that make them discuss and exchange ideas. I won't go into many detail, but basically we move from a very basic format. We just have people meet. There is maybe one presentation on a subject and then people go on a dinner like yesterday evening. The only difference is that we actually spend one day at the technology transfer office to place the people on the table. And we will be very careful to place somebody that has a project in that area with some guy from industry that is actually looking for this kind of project, or maybe a finance guy next to a startup that wants to raise money. So I think we are doing, as a technology transfer, matchmaking. We are really spending a lot of effort to make sure that these people, when they are sitting in a room with a nice dinner, are actually talking to interesting people next to them. And we go beyond that. In the middle of the dinner, what we do is we ask people to move around for a second sitting plan. So they will be having not 2, but 4 people during the night where they will be able to talk to. Well, I'm not telling you how it happens when people cancel, because that's another interesting trick. 1 hour before the dinner, that's another, but that's a more kind of stress exercise, but that's okay. We also work with a more kind of co-creation, co-development, creativity center, KTT dialogue. I think I have slide for that. This is the Lake Geneva Innovation Society, so that's the matchmaking part. A copy of the Oxford Innovation Society, so we are very thankful for them to have shown us how they operate. A more co-creation is actually a smaller group working together for 1.5, 2 days in a more remote area. We had 2 of them. It's much more getting deeper into the issues, the problems. Where is the friction? How can we solve that? And it's a one-to-one. There is no camera, and people are really chosen on the capacity to be listening to others and not just having their own same kind of story. They have to be open, and we had very good result by having these people stuck in a small house near the Lake of Geneva for 2 days without internet. Now the Creativity Center goes just one step beyond. It's not only working together, but it's actually doing stuff together. This is more classical. I guess there are many Creativity Centers in Europe now that have been generated. I don't know if the future will be really going to that direction, because of course there are limitations, IP issues and stuff like that. But this is another step where people actually work on projects together. So I won't go into the detail about all this, but just to show you the effort that we are trying to do to bring people together. And I think each type of approach has its own plus and minus. And I think if you want to go deep, you have to have a number of people limited. If you want to have just a meeting, like a dinner, you can have 200, 100 people. But if you really want to go into detail interaction, then you need maybe 20 or 25 people. And I think the goal is, maybe the third point, is really the goal is to build trust. People exchange and then they have more trust and they start into collaboration. And I think this is also something key beyond collaborating. What is the goal? The goal is to actually get to a collaboration that is as high impact as possible. And this is more or less my view about the kind of hierarchy of collaboration. European collaboration on a consortia, it's good to get to know people, but they won't bring, the top latest technology on the table. There are too many players, too many competitors, that's for sure. Now, if you go on the collaborative research, that's, I think, much better because you are one-to-one kind of meeting. They can start discussing what is the B level, I call that the B, that is not the highest priority, but the second highest priority of research they do. But they won't go and put on the table the top priority or the top researcher from their side if they don't have a high level of trust, because this is key to the company to actually put that on the table and share that with others. So I think what I showed you before, these events and the way we move from one to the other, is actually to get a build of trust, and I think it's very key. Now, before I want to stop, and this is my last slide, I want to talk to you about what is cooking in our offices and what kind of challenge do we see with industry in general. I won't spend a lot of time, but basically there is the IP generation, the existence of trolls, the problems of non-practicing entity. This is something that we see in the US. There are companies that are building up huge portfolio of IP, but some of them from university, and they try to then get money out of companies to be part of their club and be protected. It's what we call troll, and I think in Europe it's still very kind of smaller, but it's still something that is dangerous, and we have to be careful as university to not give IP to these trolls. The second point, socially responsible IP, this is something we've been working very hard for the last 1.5 years. It's actually, when we have IP at the university level, we have a responsibility also to make sure that this IP will be used in a correct way for people in developing countries. And that's something new that is coming from the US, from the pressure of the students. Some universities in the US were really in big trouble because they just gave IP out to companies that didn't do a good job in putting product on the market for developing countries, and that backfired. And now I think in Europe it's very important that universities become much more proactive to have some kind of guidelines. How do you do when you have an IP that has impact for developing countries? And so we developed guidelines, and I think it was very well received. Open innovation, I won't spend a lot of time. It's great, it's big, but how do you do open innovation in life science? How do you do open innovation with SMEs? Still open question. And finally, I think we are getting to a stage where technology transfer is changing from a very kind of service, oriented. We are really embedded in the university, and we bring mentors from industry to help students. We try to assemble different teams of research where we think they have interesting discoveries that could go together and be much more attractive for companies. So I think technology transfer is becoming really embedded in the university. It also brings some issues, but I think it's a good thing. And that's my conclusion. I won't actually spend time to describe them, but basically, if I have one message to give you, I think Switzerland is successful because it's easy to make deals. People are empowered. There are not guidelines. There are no, a lot of intermediary. It's really people to people meeting together, getting an idea together, and making a deal. And that's how I think we are successful. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Exciting. Any questions from the audience? It's very interesting. I think the smaller the units, the better you come to the point and the better you manage everything. So we in Europe try to get everything concentrated in Brussels, and they take a lot to manage it, try to manage it in Brussels. And the more it is centralized, the less it is working, I think. So decentralize again, I think, is a good way of being more successful. Any questions from the audience? Yes, please. There is one question. You talk about trust building. What about the amount of time? So building trust means you need a history of cooperation and working together, and to build trust needs a lot of time. It's not just
That's right.
tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I think you really need to, and that's why we are using this kind of step-by-step relationship. I think we cannot get trust out of somebody if you don't, interact with him and make sure that you understand each other and you share the same kind of goals. But sometimes people work with that, sometimes people don't work so well. But I think our experience is that in industry, if you give them the people, the opportunity to discuss and exchange, the trust gets very easy there. I mean, I don't think it's a problem. It's just to not try to top down people and tell them what to do. Let them discuss and make sure they are sitting next to somebody that has some interesting ideas.
Yes, please.
Ribitskis, Riga Technical University. Would you tell some numbers? How much universities are gaining from industry-university cooperation? Like in 1 year, for example, at least some universities from Switzerland.
So the question is how much university gets from industry. I think there are two levels. One is the level of collaboration, which is much larger pot of money that compared to licensing. So in terms of collaboration, I mean, I don't have the absolute numbers, but in Switzerland, the percentage of collaboration that is within a research budget of a university is not very big. That means the most of the money from universities are paid by public funds. And I would say my university, we're about like 7 to 10% coming from research collaboration. And I think it's also something that is important. I mentioned the importance of supporting science and having a strong basic research, because I think this is also key to create new development and discoveries that are very kind of not just an improvement, but are really disruptive in a way. And to answer the second part of the question, the number of now, how much money do university get from licensing out and not collaboration? It's much smaller. There is no big, money maker like sometime in the US. You have one drug that is so big that the university that helped develop it is making millions. And that's also something very important. There has been never a pressure on people in technology transfer to make money out of technology transfer. And it's really a service to faculty, a service to companies, and it's not there to just squeeze the lemon as much as you can and get the money out of that. And I think this is also the respect we get from industries, that because they know we are not there to just make most of money out of this relationship, we are there for the long-term relationship building.
Well, I would like to ask a further question, but maybe we are not answering it now. But if you have been president of ASCP, and if you have those kinds of insight that much money or many cooperation and many projects and a lot of money for universities and businesses coming from collaborative research and working together, why is ASTP sending a yearly questionnaire? And this drives me crazy. If I will fill in the questionnaire, it's just on filing patents, accepted of patents, how much patents have been licensed. That's it. Nothing else was addressed in the questionnaire of ASTP concerning technology
Impact.
and knowledge transfer from universities. So I think that is sort of still coming from the past, because we have new ways of really doing the business.
Yeah, but at the same time, and I won't argue with you now because I think we are out of time, I think I'm very proud that we fought very hard against Brussels' dream of metrics, because the pressure is huge on association to bring more metrics. They have tons of economists that want to study what we do, and I think I've been active myself in metrics collection for Switzerland and for Europe, and I have to say that you have to be very careful when you have metrics that are not clear or not well defined. What you see is that people are filling out numbers like crazy out of their head, and it doesn't mean anything. And then you have economists taking these metrics, making long articles, about a story that doesn't exist. And what happens is that these economists go to the politician, and the politician think they have to change stuff. So even I agree that there are metrics, especially impact. For example, how much money did your spin-off raise? How many employees did your spin-off have now? This is very important, and I think we should go that direction. But we have to be careful against this dream of metric kind of, metric everywhere. We can measure with a board, and
Still a construction area for all of us, yeah. Thanks again.
Okay,
Great speech. Thank you.